Live from ABC News headquarters in New York City, it's Tuesday. Good morning, America. Fear the Bow, the new motto for the Little League World Series.
I love it.
Hope you all are doing well this Tuesday morning.
Yeah, some great plays there for sure.
We begin with the wildfire emergency. Extreme heat is fueling the flames. Ginger standing by with more on that. Melissa Don starts us off in Reno, Nevada. And Melissa, new fire broke out overnight in Texas.
George, good morning. Yes, and here in northern Reno, we're getting a closer look at the scope of the damage from the Hawk fire. You can see that this home here destroyed from it. Now this morning, we're also hearing from the families who have lost everything as overnight a new wildfire broke out in Texas. Overnight, a new wildfire erupting in Texas. The Ross Fire growing to more than 25,000 acres.
Every once in a while, you can hear what sounds like an explosion.
Residents near Jacksboro ordered to evacuate. The blaze only 5% contained. Meanwhile, hundreds of firefighters on the front lines battling the Hawk fire outside of Reno, Nevada.
My God, the property's burning down.
A dramatic new video shows the race to escape the fast-moving wildfire. Residents forced to drive through smoke-filled skies as they made the heart-wrenching decision to leave everything behind. The blaze burning more than 15,000 acres, destroying more than 30 homes. 7 people injured from the blaze, including 3 firefighters. Javine Curtis and her family fled from their home as the flames bore down.
You could see just the whole line on the hill coming down.
The family receiving pictures of what's left of their home from neighbors.
It was completely gone, just our chimney standing.
And the Hawk fire is now 27% contained. And you can see those flames destroyed this home and then pushed up against their neighbor's home, destroying the side of this home. There's other homes down in this neighborhood that are still standing. But of course, this is the damage that so many families are now going to be waking up to as officials are investigating the cause. They say that the Hawk fire was human caused and they're looking into whether it was set intentionally. Deborah?
Heartbreaking scene there, Melissa. Thank you. The extreme heat not helping firefighters at all. 80 million Americans are on alert across the country. Ginger, let's talk to you about more of it. Good morning.
Especially where that hot and unstable air mass could cause more fire behavior to be explosive today. So let's talk about who's hot and who has to look out for that. Los Angeles broke a record yesterday at 98 degrees, tied records from Dallas to Del Rio, El Paso. A lot of people spending their time way up above 100. This is the red flag warning today for the interior mountains, the western San Gabriels up through parts of Ventura County interior. You could see gusty winds on top of that heat drying everything out. There are so many fires burning from Montana to Idaho to Utah. You know, it's like we can't even show you all the pictures. And unfortunately, there is more heat that will be making those types of events more explosive. Phoenix, Las Vegas in the extreme heat warnings. They stay that way through Saturday in a lot of places, Albuquerque. And then this keeps moving west, where Texas, I'll show you coming up, Whit, has been hot for more than a week.
All right, Ginger, thank you for that. Now to President Trump escalating his trade war with Canada, threatening new tariffs as Canada retaliates with its own tariffs against the U.S. Senior political correspondent Rachel Scott is tracking it all from the White House. Rachel, good morning.
Whit, good morning to you. And this is really becoming a tit for tat. The U.S. and Canada not only trading harsh attacks, they are also trading new threats, sparking concern that this could turn into a much wider trade war.
This morning, Canada preparing to roll out retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. as the two sides barrel towards an all-out trade war. President Trump threatening Canadian leaders to fall in line as he threatens to impose new 50% tariffs on car parts, cars, and steel. On top of the steep tariffs he's already imposed on furniture, textiles, building supplies, and alcohol. Canada responding, vowing to impose a dollar-for-dollar tariff on their own. The president brushing that off, writing on social media, "We don't need Canada, they need us." But overnight, the president did admit the U.S. does need Canada for some items like aluminum.
You know, selfishly, we need aluminum in this country. We don't have it. We get it all from Canada for the most part, and we need it badly.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney warning it is America's auto workers that will be impacted.
What message does that send to the workers in Michigan and Ohio and Kentucky and Alabama, who rely on Canadian demand?
And the Premier of Ontario blasting President Trump.
Well, you can kiss my as far as I'm concerned.
It comes as the U.S. ramps up the economic pressure against Iran as the war nears its 7th month and a virtual stalemate in the Strait of Hormuz. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was expected to unveil a host of sanctions against Iranian trade partners, which both he and the president referred to as Economic D-Day. But Secretary Bessent only warned those sanctions were to come, and he didn't name any countries, including China, Iran's top trade partner.
Why not impose the sanctions today?
Well, we are giving everyone the opportunity to remedy bad behavior. Why would I want to blow up the global financial system?
Iran's chief negotiator says they aren't buying it, writing that the U.S. is not in an economic position to further restrict its relations with other countries.
So going back to Canada, their retaliatory tariffs would go into effect on September 8th. And you heard there those harsh words from Ontario's premier. Well, it's clear President Trump is listening, because just moments ago he posted on social media that the U.S. is now giving serious consideration to changing the name of Lake Ontario to Lake America, saying that we will no longer be doing business with Ontario. It's unclear if the president could even do that unilaterally. This is an international body of water, which would likely require approval from both countries, George.
Right, he could do it for federal maps, but it wouldn't impact what Canada or other nations call the lake. Okay, Rachel, thanks very much. We're going to the latest now from the Supreme Court, ruling to allow President Trump to plan in order to restrict mail-in voting, but that order is still blocked for now from any impact on the midterms just over 2 months away. Jay O'Brien is in Washington with the story. Good morning, Jay.
George, good morning to you. The Supreme Court giving the green light for President Trump to move ahead with parts of an executive order that would limit access to mail-in voting while the issue makes its way through the lower courts. The justices allowing the Department of Homeland Security to compile a list of what it believes are eligible voters, also inside that Trump executive order, allowing the post office to essentially decide who would be sent a mail-in ballot and only send out those ballots in states that have given their voter data over to the federal government. That's section is barred from going into place by a different court case. There's a flurry of court cases here, and the justices did not rule on the contents of Trump's executive order here, so this issue is very likely to be in front of the Supreme Court yet again. The three liberal justices dissenting here, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson calling the president's executive order, quote, blatantly unconstitutional. Bottom line, these restrictions are not likely to be in place by the November midterms, but depending on the outcome of these various court cases, they could be in place for the 2028 presidential election.
And sowing a fair amount of confusion. Okay, Jay, thanks very much. Now to a Navy sailor aboard the USS Lincoln saying that his father was arrested by ICE as the ship makes its home after a long deployment in the Middle East. Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas is in Washington with the latest on that. Good morning, Pierre.
George, good morning. A sailor who is on the USS Lincoln, which is making its way back home after a nearly 9-month deployment in the Middle East, is making headlines. Joshua Alvarez posting on Facebook, I just got a call that my dad was taken by ICE. He continued, I don't know how I can mentally continue working 12-plus hour days knowing that my dad is somewhere, possibly being treated like a criminal. When we reached out to Homeland Security officials, they gave a blunt statement saying, quote, having a family member in the military is not a free pass to violate our nation's laws. But Alvarez said his father had a work permit and, quote, had done everything through immigration to get his green card approved. DHS officials say that Alvarez's father is in the country illegally from Nicaragua. They say he was arrested during a traffic stop in Key West, Florida 3 days ago. DHS says he will, quote, remain in ICE custody pending removal. What happened in this case is something we're seeing more of. ABC News is finding evidence that DHS is increasingly arresting and deporting undocumented workers with family ties to the military, to include spouses, George.
Right, and just yesterday we heard of the wife of an Army sergeant being deported to Honduras.
Yes, and the sergeant told us he was seeking citizenship for his wife, hoping his service would expedite her naturalization process. Instead, George, she's being deported.
Pierre Thomas, thanks, Deb.
All right, George. Now to the latest on the situation in Indiana, where thousands are stuck without power 2 weeks after a severe storm. Indiana's governor now calling for an investigation. Alex Perez is in hard-hit Gary, Indiana, where he spoke with the mayor there. Good morning, Alex.
Hey, good morning, Deb. Yeah, the mayor tells me he's pressing the utility company to get this resolved. 2 weeks ago today, residents lost power and many are still in the dark. And if you look around town, there are still downed trees like this everywhere.
This morning, thousands of residents in Gary and parts of northwest Indiana still struggling without power after a violent storm ravaged the area 2 weeks ago today. Now, the governor calling for a state investigation.
It just is not conceivable in any way what is going on.
Mary Cinco now forced to stay at a city shelter, her home damaged by the storm, and with no electricity, caring for her health is impossible.
Without power, I can't take my breathing treatments.
Thousands left in the dark, including Regina Gary, still without power. She spent the past 2 weeks hunting for food and ice to keep her diabetic mother's medication cold.
That's scary for me because I don't want to make her sick. So it weighed on me pretty heavy.
Some fuming at utility company NIPSCO for not being able to restore power quickly enough and have filed a class action lawsuit. NIPSCO said the storm caused extensive damage, but that they remain committed to restoring power safely and as quickly as possible and will fully cooperate if an investigation is launched.
It's been extremely difficult, very frustrating.
Gary Mayor Eddie Melton has been pressuring NIPSCO to bring in more help to restore power at a faster pace.
I'm going to fight every single day to make sure that we rebound and we bring the needed resources to every single neighborhood.
And the mayor tells me the city doesn't have enough employees to clear all of these downed trees, but they have hired 2 private contractors to get this all cleaned up. NIPSCO says they are working around the clock to get Gary back on, and they expect to have most of Gary, if not all of it, back on by tonight. Whit?
Yeah, can't come soon enough. All right, Alex Perez for us. We turn now to the latest update on the measles. Maryland is now declaring an outbreak of the disease in 3 counties. This comes as measles cases continue to climb past record levels. The CDC announced there are more than 2,700 confirmed cases across at least 45 states plus D.C. so far this year. And take a look at this collision caught on camera. Video of a San Francisco train operator here seeming to fall asleep just before slamming into another train. Thankfully, no one was hurt. The incident is being blamed on fatigue. Another driver was seen sleeping at the controls last year, prompting a fatigue awareness education campaign, which critics say has not worked.
That's some picture right there.
Really
this morning,
is.
we're also hearing from the man who raced up a shark attack victim in the Florida Keys. Sam, you got the latest on that?
I do, George, and boy, this is very close to the Keys themselves. This hero who stepped up is actually a former Army nurse who relied on quick thinking and extensive training to treat the victim and stop a great deal of bleeding until the Coast Guard arrived.
The patient's going to be a shark bite victim.
This morning, a good Samaritan sharing the frightening moments. A 43-year-old man was bitten in the leg by a shark, both swimming in the water of the Key West National Wildlife Refuge near Key West, Florida.
I heard the boat next to us holler for help, and it sounded serious.
Meet hero Christopher Green, a retired Army veteran and registered nurse who was also out boating with friends near Boca Grande Key Sunday afternoon.
I jumped up and started running. I saw that he had some arterial bleeding. Anybody that knows that, it's serious.
Christopher and another nurse applying a tourniquet from the first aid kit Christopher had on his boat.
We did our jobs as nurses and help control the bleeding and get the limb elevated. And we hollered for somebody to call the Coast Guard.
With the Coast Guard alerted, they raced back to shore where he was airlifted to a Miami hospital.
Definitely life-threatening. I coordinated with Sector Key West and EMS to have them meet us at the pier and take care of the patient.
Christopher, like many amazing nurses, grateful that he was there to help.
All the friends that I had with me on that boat, they did an amazing job.
Christopher was truly in the right place at the right time, and he tells us he's kind of like a Boy Scout, always prepared with those first aid kits in his boat and his truck. Our nurses are the best, right? And the Coast Guard says the victim was transferred to EMS in stable condition. An incredible job all around.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You don't want to hear arterial bleeding.
I remember from Girl Scouts.
There you go. Yeah.
Always be prepared for sure. All right. Well, now to the Little League World Series and an extra innings thriller in Williamsport late last night. Alabama erasing a huge deficit to come back to win behind their sensation Kinley Rasmus, complete with her little bow. Yep. We all were noticing her. Will Reeve is here to bring us more.
Yeah, good morning. Hi, everyone. So this was high drama in Williamsport last night. A comeback for the ages and a reminder to fear the bow. That is the rallying cry behind Alabama's Kinley Rasmus, the 12-year-old girl taking the Little League World Series by storm.
Wow. Throws one up the middle. That will win the game for Phoenix City.
Overnight, Alabama punching its ticket to the next round of the Little League World Series with a walk-off hit.
The Southeast champs eliminating the hometown favorites from Pennsylvania, but not before digging out of a 5-run hole in the 3rd inning. That's when Kinley Rasmus, with her trademark bow, took them out.
It's going to be Rasmus to make sure there are donuts thrown up there on the board.
And control of the game.
And right back at her. How about 2? Are you kidding me?
Turning a double play on the very first batter she faced.
Kinley Rasmus to the rescue.
The 12-year-old shutting down Pennsylvania, allowing just 2 hits and striking out 6 batters. She now has 14 strikeouts in the tournament, tying Monet Davis for the most ever by a girl at the Little League World Series. And she wasn't done.
It feels like a time to fear the bow.
Fear the bow chants echoing through the stadium as she came to the plate.
Rounding 3rd coming in. This game is tied at 5.
Rasmus delivering an RBI single to help spark the comeback. Rasmus is just the 25th girl ever to play in the Little League World Series, but she's making history all her own.
The bow doing big things.
Yeah, doing big things indeed. And Alabama will face Washington later today, and elsewhere in the U.S. bracket yesterday, Ohio beat Texas to move on. And you can catch more Little League World Series action today, starting at 1 Eastern on ESPN. Kinley's really good.
Yeah.
She's got MLB pedigree. Her dad and her uncle were major leaguers. So
she gets it genetically.
Yeah.
She got it.
She had all the confidence on her face.
Yeah, she was ready to go.
Love that story. Thank you, Will.
Yep.